I just wrote a bunch of terms from I just wrote some words from glossaries. Um, coming up with if I come up with a topic to discuss, let's read some words. Some words would just pop up, right? Religion. Let's see. Traditions, siblings, worship, occasion. Ancestry. Bureaucracy. Nationalist. Public. Explore. Constitution. Yeah, the thing is, most people, require a certain amount of, otherwise, there could be a lack of purpose. For instance, let's see. This is a great image. This is an image of someone with a globe, some tools that were invented a long time ago, and what looks like a book, or a notebook, or a piece of paper or something, with invention prototypes. I was coming up with a topic to discuss. And most people require a certain thing. For example, belonging to a nation, it satisfies a lot of requirements people have for exploring. You explore the place around you. You get to learn the concepts that are required. Like for example, there are stories of feral children being raised by animals. But it's like religion, for example, is something that for some people they just really get into it. Siblings, traditions, the idea of traditions, siblings, it's just we have to look at it from the perspective of biology, which there are research on it. There's some jargon words like the Westernic effect. There's lots of these research done, and it's just a lot of people just need something, because I always wondered how a whole city can function, right? Like, like civilizations don't just collapse randomly, right? There's something that keeps the whole thing into cohesion, But societies have collapsed in the past. For example, the Mayans. Hard to come up with examples because I'm not a historian, nor am I read on history stuff, but nor have I read much on history stuff. So, hold on, the need to explore. First of all, in the earlier time period, it would have been ships. Now it is clearly cars, which is the mode for exploring. Cars is is very different. First of all, than for example, riding a horse. Very different, but you get the idea that let's see, let's come up with a different topic. Improvise. Observed. Let's see. As you can tell, I'm not really sure what to discuss here. Let's see. Maybe I'll have other ideas. economy, empire, slang. I was browsing some images from a picture book that often it was a long period of waiting that people would pass the time by playing board games with another. Nowadays, so, the point is, a lot of people do live in a moment in circumstances like that. If you're late for, or if you're early for an appointment and you're waiting like 30 minutes to an hour, you might check your phone for something to do, right? Before smartphones were invented, I don't know, I suppose you might bring something that you like. Some people always bring something, right? I don't know. It's, let's see if I can come up with more words. Let's see. There's refugee. I'm not the best when it comes to discussing immigration. That's a different topic. But I can definitely discuss government, afterlife. Afterlife is very tied into religion. Religion discusses the afterlife frequently, but religion is an organized group, and people with typically a lot of buildings. Prior to that, I don't know, man. This is the last time I had that word history book. Any more history book will have topics like genocide, massacres, let's see, plantations, slavery, is, a controversial subject. Like, it was controversial for the College Board to introduce AP, African American Studies, which is recent, but the College Board's done a lot of things that, I don't know if that's the right thing. I'm trying to come up with an idea. I'm just saying, like, there's so many books. Oh, actually, that's a great idea. The reason why there's so many of these books made, but most people don't want to read. A lot of people don't want to read these books. Why do you think that is? Because book reading. It's passive, right? You don't interact with anything, right? Using a phone, you interact with something, right? But with a book, it's very passive. It's words there. It's not interactive. Television could be interactive, especially some DVDs can be interactive, for example. But a book, you can have it's not interactive, right? Most you just flip around the book over and over, the books like that. But those are typically not the point. Don't consider coloring books. You're not discussing about that or Sudoku. I'm discussing just a plain book, right? It's passive, right? You're not interacting with anything. You're reading the book, right? But you're not interacting with. There's no interaction, right? The way that there is with, for example. So, with a book, see, it's not the same as, for example, attending a lecture, regardless if it's a college lecture or something like a TED Talk, right? TED Talk conference, which probably costs a little bit of money. The TED Talks aren't free, not even close. This is one of the reasons people attended those speeches, like, speeches done by Gandhi, Martin Luther King, uh, you know, went to Washington D.C. during the inaugurations. There'd be speech. President make one of those press conferences to discuss things. Let's see. But reading a book is not interactive. It is passive. What else is passive? Let's see. But reading a book, you're able to, one of the reasons that, many, a lot of people in the past put a lot of painstaking effort in archiving things, and one of the reasons, we have history books at all is because we have this evidence that's or stored from the past efforts of others. But there's lots of things that weren't able to be archived because they were destroyed. And because of that, we're not able to get a clear view of history, right? So, lots of unanswered questions. But, you'd be surprised how much people are able to dig up, and in terms of coming up with these analysis. I would consider that how much was accurate, I'm not sure, but or maybe not necessarily inaccurate, but perhaps somewhat useless. Like for example, the Myers-Briggs website's typing, not really typing a historical figure, but a bunch of other things, right? Which in many ways doesn't really tell us much, right? Because there's lots of things, and it's just how much of it is really useful, I'm not sure. But let's see. But it got me to realize that I gotta wrap this up here. So when you have a purpose in life, and this is a picture I just, like, clearly, this man did not have access to anything like the internet, right? And this is what, the 16th century? This picture indicates someone from the 16th century. Clearly, you didn't have access to, if he had access to like an encyclopedia or a dictionary, let's say we went back in time, gave him a dictionary in the language that is, because this, I could probably be able to find, if this was Italy, for example, or Germany, or I don't know, England, or France, or Spain, or whatever. I don't know. It's just a scientist in the 16th century stays old. So for some reason, I can't think of Italy. I really don't know that. But yeah, if this guy was in Italy, yeah, I'm like, I'll just get an Italian dictionary, or an encyclopedia in Italian, right? And I'm being like, I'm from the future. See, that's the thing. I'm speaking like a ESTP right now, cause I'm not a historian. Like, yeah, so I went back in time and brought him these, and I would probably bring a bunch of other books, and I'd be like, cause I can't just bring like a computer. I could, but there's no electrical outlets, right? So if the computer had, let's say, battery powered, it wouldn't last more than a few hours, right? And then it would just blank out, right? So it makes sense to bring books. Say I brought a bunch of Italian books in his language, or whatever language he speaks, right? He reads the books, and I guess some of the words might not make sense because, the dialect was very different. But you might be able to understand after putting some effort with the what the author's saying, right? But here's the problem. Like, what if the books get destroyed? Right? So am I going to am I going to use a time machine again and give them a replacement? No. It doesn't work that way. That's why that's the thing that we can do right now, right? We lose a common copy of a book, we can easily purchase another one online or in a bookstore, right? If it's, unless it's like one of those rare out of print books, but you can easily find another book that basically says the same thing. Um, that's the convenience of being in the modern time. Back in the old days, I think only like a Bible would be very commonplace. Right? I don't know when the Bible was created, but I'm just saying, like, there's a clear difference. Books are passive. A lot. It doesn't change that most of human history people were very social. With a book, but again, literacy was less common in the 16th century. It's like, as we see the scientists in the 16th century is most likely at least upper middle class. You don't see anyone in poverty becoming a scientist, right? And I think the same can be said about an artist, right? They certainly are at least middle class. They're certainly not born in poverty the way Leonardo da Vinci may have been, right? So there's much to say about this. We're exploring the inquiry of this thought process. We have to be able to consider the perspective. I'm like, oh, I'm not saying anything practical. Well, no, it's just that, one needs to have a purpose in life. But again, a book is self-sustaining, right? But a book, does not satisfy the social needs that some people have, right? Some people require these needs that a book does not have. You may be surprised how many college students, regardless if they purchase a textbook, would never touch it unless they're answering a required homework question, right? You'd be surprised that a substantial amount of students do not need the textbook to proceed with the course, right? Because they just find that all they need is to attend the lectures and quiz sections, and that's it. You don't need the textbook, right? You're not going to learn the whole subject from a textbook. In many ways, it's excessive, because so